Okay. So I said one of the problems of inability is the fact that man is a rational being. So being a rational being, he has a tendency only to accept things that fit in his rational thinking. That's a problem. Another problem is man acts on motives. Man acts on motives. Motives are related only for free being. Animals do not have motives. The question why, what for, etc. are answerable by man. So motives is very, very important. Motives. For doing anything, the motive should be there. Why you are acting, what for you are acting. So, in this whole matter of coming to Jesus Christ and believing on Him, or working for your eternal salvation, the motives play a big amount. People who go to temple, let us ask the question, why they go to temple? Do they really go to temple for God's glory or some benefit they want? Some benefit. See, the motive is wrong. See? Man as God's creation must be doing everything ultimately for God's glory. The man who puts money, he is expecting something in return. Maybe the peace of mind, maybe passing the exams, maybe getting an employment, healing for the child. So basically it all comes to bribing God for some benefits. And you think that God is going to take that little from you and then going to give? This is wrong. So when God gives for man's blessing, He takes initiative. God is actually not expecting anything in return other than the glory of God. When God demands the glory, He is not selfish. See, if you fill a balloon with the helium and let it go, where will it go and stop? If you fill a balloon with the glory of God, you lose it, where will it go? It cannot go beyond God, because God is the ultimate. So all things will stop there. That's the glory of God. So that's not selfishness. On the table of American president, there is a writing saying, the buck stop here. The buck is the word they use for dollar.
Okay.
The buck's dollar stops here.
Meaning?
Eh?
They mean?
Mean that he controls the finance and everything. Beyond American president, there is no taxation laws and all laws, everything. This bill will be signed.
By the president.
So whether the livelihood of the American people is there. But as for us, we say the buck stops with God. All glory go to Him. So when God gets the glory, it's never selfishness, because He has the right to get it, because everything else is His creation. Michelangelo does a beautiful painting. The glory goes to him. We all talk about Michelangelo. Say, oh, what marvelous. Well, Michelangelo is the creator of that picture, but then the glory should not go to Michelangelo, who gave the hands, who gave the imagination, who created the paint, who created the canvas, who created time, and who created energy and everything. See that? So everything you say, you ask questions, say why, then finally come to God, and you cannot anymore ask the question, why? So our motives, man is totally unable, or the inability of man to work out his own salvation is because he can never act on a pure motive, unless that motive is the glory of God. And a natural man can never do anything for glory of God. Even a mother, when the mother feeds the baby, is the mother feeding without any selfish motivation? In later years, when the son becomes ungrateful and this one, then what the mother will say that? I brought you up. The amount of labor I have put on, if I have done it,
Somewhere else.
something else, if I have put it in my field, I would have got in my old age some.
Returns.
Yes. So that way in the mind what? There was a motivation that maybe in the old age. Some people who doesn't have a children, they crave for children. Is it really for the children's benefit they are thinking, or it is of their old age, or somebody will inherit their property or something of that sort? If it's purely for the child's benefit, then there are many unwanted children in this world. You can do a charitable act. Adopt one of those children. You save them, right? But you won't do that. You will do any amount of things for your child. You love it. I'm not saying it's not out of motivation. Yes. But even in that purest so-called motivation of the mother, there is an amount of
Selfishness.
yes. Because in later years, when that child will do something that pains the mother, immediately the mother will say that, I have taken so much pain for you. You should be grateful to me, or you should not be done it. That's there. So the total inability is because man is not able to work out his own salvation, because for the glory of God he does not think anything. God saves a man not for man's blessings directly, that's a result, but for God's own glory. He does all things for his own glory. All things. Then another problem is external motivations do not apply to man. His mind and thinking are internal elements, and they agree with the free agency. External pressures force a man to do things contrary to his personal volitions. Think of that. A salesman comes to you. He is selling a pen. How much external force he can put to buy this pen? You finally bought a pen from him. What was the motivation? The external force is only when he takes out the gun and said, buy it or I'll shoot you. That's when the external pressure. The other, you have to convince him this is the best pen, this pen is so bright, so smooth, flows so smooth, the ink won't come, there, this and that, and then the price is so cheaper than the other brands, quality is higher than the other. What is going through your mind when he's saying all these things? Oh, bunch of lies, he wants me to buy his pen. Okay, take a pen, get out of this place, I have the things to do. So what was the motivation? Whatever we do, even when it comes to salvation, that's what is going on internally in a man's mind. So no man really honestly works with a pure and clear motivation of God's glory. He thinks about his own salvation. No. Many people do not want to go to hell, not because they love heaven, but because they hate hell. It is like suicide. Nobody loves death that he commits suicide, but they hate life. That's the reason they commit suicide. Who loves death? Nobody loves death. But they are afraid to face the realities of life. So they come to a point where they hate life, the misery of the life, the enemies maybe, the particular disease that gives the pain, cancer maybe, this and that. So they are really not choosing death, but they are choosing against life. That's what it is. So people, even those who, we think that so honestly they are trying to get the soul saved, is really not honestly trying to get the soul saved, but because they only hate maybe the hellfire. I just want to get out of the hellfire. I am not interested to go to heaven, but somehow I can get out of the hellfire, that's fine.
Since there is no other option other than
There is no option. So that's what it is. Yes. The will is considered the faculty of determination. Yes. Because the will is the faculty of determination, the question why one man believes in Jesus Christ while another man refuses to believe relates to his determination. And his determination could be guided by his reason or affection. The Bible answers this question to the inability of the sinner to believe. That's how the Bible simply says that he is not able to believe. You know. But the inability may be due to different factors, but the fact that he did not believe is because he is not able to believe. You know, it's just like saying, you know, we may say that I am not able to come tomorrow. Whatever reason you give for not going, it doesn't help. You are supposed to go, but you are saying I am not able to go. The answer is, he is not able to come tomorrow. What is the reason? He may have 1,000 reasons, but not one of them may be legitimate. One of them may not be convincing the other person. So people try to find out the closest one that will convince. Like you have a summons in the court to be present. You may get a medical certificate from the doctor. You go and admit 2 days back and admit and be in the hospital. So you send a medical certificate saying he is admitted in the hospital. But the judge may not order the policeman, go bring him with the bed. Like Saul told about David, go. David Saul, when Saul's people came and reported back saying David is sick. So Saul said, go and bring him with the bed. So when they went to pick up with the dead, they found out that it was not David, but it was only a doll there, covered up. So even the court could say that he is sick enough, then bring him with the bed. But judge won't do it because for other reasons. Because tomorrow the newspapers will
show that,
and then the judge may be criticized by the higher judges, saying that his action was, wrong. Because when the doctor certified he is not healthy enough to go to the court, then how can the judge say that? After all, who decides whether you are able or not? The doctor decides, right? A boy was admitted in the hospital, some serious sicknesses every day. He was there for 1 month. Every day the doctor takes around and tells the nurse, give him an injection. So one day the boy decided that he is sick and tired with the injection. Every part of his body is injected painful. So he said, I will pretend to be dead. Of course, the doctor came and looked and said to the man standing, his father said, your boy is dead, take his body out. So when the doctor said he is dead, the boy said, I am not dead. So father said, you stupid, shut up. What do you know? He is an MD doctor. What qualification do you have? So that's what it is. The qualified person says he is dead. You say you are not dead. So, when God says the most qualified person says, you are not able to believe, what reason God cites is unimportant. The reason is you are not able to believe. So the Bible's answer is the correct answer. Is man a free agent? Then let me say that, God is absolutely free. In that there is nothing that controls God. He does what he purposes without any external compulsions. God does not act on any external compulsions. To this day, nobody has compelled God to do anything. But man, the most free person is compelled by some reasons external to himself. We put a blanket on, why are we? Because we feel cold, right? See the external. We turn the fan on, why are we? Because we feel hot. We drink water, why are we? Because we are thirsty. God never drinks a glass of water because he is never thirsty. God does not have a blanket because he is never cold. There is no fan in heaven because he is never. So for everything man does, even the most free person has a reason. He has a reason. God does not have to have a reason outside him. He is the reason. His sovereign will is the reason. His eternal purpose is the reason. So if we go and ask God why you have done this, you know what is his answer? I'll do what I want, you shut up. In Romans chapter 9 we have that. Finally ask the question, then say, who are you to argue with God? Has the pot ever argued with the potter, why you made me like this? See, God, we are a pot. The only difference is when God made this pot, he put a tongue also. So with the tongue we have God said, shut up that tongue. Yeah. Nothing more than that. You know, the gap between the creator and the created is so big. The creature can never question God. Never question God. So it is God's sovereign will. Jesus Christ has taken humanity upon him and he was a man in the true sense as we are. Was he totally free like the eternal God to do what he purposes? Could Jesus choose to sin? The answer is no. Why? Because Jesus is God and deity controlled his humanity and therefore it is against the character of God to sin. So God, it is not that God is not able to sin, but the statement is God is able not to sin. You know, it is not that God is not able to sin. It is not his inability. It is his ability not to sin. You know. So we put the statement wrongly. God is not able to sin. As if that, hey, God is not able to sin, even if he wants. No, God is able. God is not able to sin, that's not. God is able not to sin. He is the only person who is able not to sin. The question of whether he wants or not does not arise. It is against his character. Yes. So God is a free person. He is free not to sin. Man is free to sin or not to sin. Foreknowledge of God of all our actions renders our free agency a limited one. God knows what we are going to do. And because God knows what we are going to do, our freedom is restricted, what our free agency means. Because what we are going to do is determined by God, what we are going to do. How does God know what we are going to do? This morning I put on this shirt. How did God know that I put on this shirt? Because
God decides
God decides so.
that you put this shirt.
Yeah, right. It's purely in my freedom, it's purely in my freedom because God gave me the freedom and God created me and therefore God knows how I am going to use my freedom. If God didn't want me to put this shirt on, then God would have created me a different being that will have a hatred for this color. Some of you will never put certain colors on you. But you will find that certain other people would love that color. Somebody someday gives me a shirt and I can't put it on. I give it to somebody else, they say, man, good shirt, And they put it on and say, hey, it looks great on you. But not on me because mentally I am aversion to it. See that? So it means that am I free to put that shirt on? That's the question. Am I free to put on? I am free to put on that shirt, but I'll be miserable. So in another sense, the design of God is behind everything that takes place. So the most free person is not that free. The most free person is not that free. Because man is a creature. In a creature, how can a creature be free? When you design a product, he designed the product to work in certain way. That product's freedom is limited by The design. So God has designed man to work in certain way. Therefore, man's freedom, God gave that man freedom to work in certain way. But that freedom is limited by the designer. Therefore, man is never like this, certain Pelagians and others say that man is never totally free to do what he wants because God exerts by the very designing God exerts. Very design. Just cannot. So foreknowledge of God allows our actions, renders our free agency limited. If God knows from eternity all our thoughts and actions, then we cannot change our actions or thoughts. For that to render God's omniscience false. God has known what I was going to do, then I changed it, then that means God has to change his knowledge, right? So that means God is limited, God is not omniscient. At least God has said that as far as Abraham's action is concerned, God is not knowing. He may change his view anytime. So God has to change completely. Let me wait, see, let me what he's doing. No, that's not the way. God is never surprised by man's actions. And if a person is never surprised by God's action, then that person must have, man's action, then that person must have known exactly what. Otherwise he'll be surprised, he's waiting there. Yeah, the baby will be boy or a girl. Baby will be boy or girl. Oh man, we are so excited because, okay, doctors know boy is girl or boy, but we are not told. But before the doctors know, is God excited to know whether the child is a boy or a girl? No, God knows it. God knows it. Fully knows it. When did God know that the child will be a boy or a girl? After the child was conceived, then God looked at it. Yeah, that's a boy. I never thought that would be a boy. That turned out to be a boy. No. It's all in the design of God. God. Sometimes the X chromosome or the Y chromosome from the man moves upwards, God is wondering there, the two are going. I want to see which one will first hit because that is going to decide which is a boy or a girl. That question does not come. As soon as it is, God decided it should be a boy, then the Y chromosome slowly moves up and everybody else behind and he goes and hit it and that's it. If God decided it should be the other way then. If God decided that this woman has to give only birth to girls, it is said that now there are certain women who will take only X chromosomes. Yeah. Then every child born will be a girl. Some women will take only Y chromosomes. And every child, 10 child, all boys. Some will take X or Y, whoever comes first. But then it's all in the control of God. It's all in the control of God. So what we mean to say that the so-called concept of free man itself is not correct. We are free to the extent God gives us the freedom. Yes. To the extent God gives us freedom. Beyond that, we cannot go even a little bit. Could absolute certainty of an act and the doctrine of man's free agency coexist? If a thing is absolutely certain, then man has to do it. He cannot be free. If man is a free agent, then action cannot be known from eternity. For man has not determined in eternity what he was going to do. Because in eternity man was not there. So if God has decided what to take place, then in eternity God has determined what will take place. Then man has no freedom but to do it. That's the truth. Then the amazing truth is no force, no pressure, nothing. Nothing God has to exert. Everything takes place so naturally. Because it is God who designs. That's the beauty of the design of God. If an action is necessary, then it cannot be free. Because the necessity determines the act. I must go tomorrow. Then I am not free to go anywhere else tomorrow. I must go there. If necessity lays that I must drink a cup of coffee, then I'm not free to drink a cup of tea at that time, at that moment. See? Because necessity determines it. The very fact that something is necessary determines it. It is necessary for you to marry this woman, then you're not free to marry anybody else. Because necessity lays it on that. See, that's the way it goes. So we feel we are free only because we don't know what is behind the curtain. That's the reason. When we don't know what is behind the curtain, everything is very free because we don't know what is going to take place. We are waiting and waiting and waiting. We said, I thought he would not go there, but look, he went there. God says that I only decided he would go there. He had no choice but to go. But when he went, as if he went, he wanted to go there. That's amazing. When a child is born, it is said that the genetic, the combinations of his DNA and all these things, there may be how many lakhs of options there. If a couple will have 1 lakh children, all 1 lakh children may look different, right? That means the ovum and the egg has an option of looking differently for 1 lakh children. Yeah, one may be short, one may be little high, one may have more hair, small hair, nose little different, eye little different, color little different. This is not different. So what decides the particular child will have the big nose or the flat nose or the crooked nose or the big ears or the small ears? All God. At the moment of conception, you could say, the very moment of conception, the divine control is there as to what the child should be. We may pray after conception, God give us a boy. Nice prayer. Nice prayer. But God is not going to change the gender of the child after it is conceived. And it's not because God is not able to. If God does, then that's a violation because He's making a male a female. That's a violation upon the child. God doesn't do that.
But God can foresee the prayer, no?
After or before?
Before.
No, before the conception. Suppose our prayer is after that.
After
God can foresee the prayer earlier, no?
Well, we can, before you marry, you can say that, or at your marriage, before you relate, you can bow down and say that, Lord, give us a boy. Okay, give us a boy. There is a possibility that God may answer because, that thought may be put in your heart by the Holy Spirit. So Holy Spirit, God may, at the conception, God may make it possible. But once conceived and a boy is conceived, you are asking for a girl, then...
Next time.
Yeah, otherwise God has to perform a change in the... God is able to make that gender, but that will be a violation upon. If you are going to be made a woman or you are going to be made a man, much violation has to be done upon your whole personality, your whole biochemistry, your whole anatomy and physiology and everything.
So my point is,
Yeah.
God could have acted foreseeing my prayer.
God could have acted for seeing. Yeah, that God could have, yes. That's probably, God answers many of our prayers. Yeah. Yes, God could foresee. God knows everything. Therefore that also could be there. But then, God doesn't, anyway, if we pray the right prayer that God decides to do for us, then that's the right prayer because the other is, I won't say the wrong prayer, I will say that prayer is one of those prayers that God will say, thank you for asking. I will keep that in mind next time. Yeah. Then again, what is the motivation for it? That again, God knows. So, the necessity of the action.